What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Oak Tree Football Channel, and welcome back to another college football predictions video. So today I will be doing another SEC team. I will be doing the LSU Tigers. But just before we get into it, I just want to say that I've decided that I'm not gonna look through the roster and stuff like that. I'm just gonna get right into the schedule, give a record prediction and stuff like that, talk about some of the games. So LSU coming off a national championship with Heisman Trophy winner Joe Burrow. They had one of the best offenses in the history of college football. They had some good players on defense as well. They're losing a lot of talent. A lot of starters are leaving the team this season for the NFL draft, for the NFL. They still have some good players, which I'll get into in a second. But they're losing a lot of players. But they should still have a good season coming off a national championship. Ed Orgeron, great coach, really good coach. They are losing Joe Brady, which might hurt a little, but still well coached. And they have good players, so it should be a good season. Let's get into their schedule. So in 2019, they went 15-0, won the national championship, and their recruiting class rank was number 4 in the country. So that was a very good recruiting class by them. So now let's get into looking at their schedule. Week 1, UTSA. That shouldn't be much of a challenge for them. It really shouldn't, even with some players in their first game. It's going to be Myles Brennan first game at quarterback, but it still shouldn't be a problem. We might see a bit of struggles from him in that game, but I think it's a lot better that they're starting the season off with an easier game, so some of the players that were backups last season kind of get a feel of the game and really know what they're going to be in for this season. Because in week 2 they have a tougher game. It's not too tough, but Texas, it was a pretty close game last year, LSU versus Texas. It was actually pretty close, and I think it could be close again this year. Texas is actually a pretty good football team, and I mean, so is LSU, so it should be a good game. It is at home for LSU, which is going to help. And, I mean, I think it could definitely be a win. Week 3 against Rice, that should be an easy win, I think. Rice is one of the worst teams in college football. I think that's safe to say. They did well in the second part of last season, but still, I don't expect much from Rice this year. Week 4 against Ole Miss. This is tougher than Rice, but it still shouldn't be too tough. It's not the biggest challenge. Ole Miss is not the best team. There are definitely a lot of tougher opponents, but it's another easy start to the season for LSU. Another easy game to start off the season with, and I think Myles Brennan will be happy with this, especially that he has 2 really good receivers in Terrence Marshall and in Jamar Chase, who, in my opinion, Jamar Chase is the best receiver in college football. In my opinion, he's coming off a Blitnikoff Award. Really good player, and that's going to make it a lot easier for Myles Brennan in his first season. He doesn't have Justin Jefferson, who went to the draft, but still, that's going to make it a lot easier. Take some pressure off him because he has 2 really good receivers. And then on defensive side, they still have some good players, like Derek Stingley Jr., who I think is one of the best cornerbacks in college football, if not the best cornerback in college football. But looking back at their schedule, Week 5, Nichols. Not a tough game. That should be easy. So, first 5 weeks of the season, 4 of them should be pretty easy wins, and then 1 of them should be a win. It might just be a bit tougher. All at home. Then it gets tougher because they have to go into Florida to play the Gators. That is going to be a really tough game for them. I think the Gators are one of the best teams in the SEC. That's going to be a really tough game for LSU. Especially with Florida, other than C.J. Henderson, really isn't losing too much. And the game was pretty close last year. So I think Florida might be able to win that game. And then it's in Florida also. I don't know if I mentioned that. Week 7, they have to go to Arkansas. That shouldn't be much of a challenge. Even though it's not at home, Arkansas really is not the best team. And they're one of the worst teams, I would say, in the SEC. So it really shouldn't be that tough of a game. And then they go back home to play Mississippi State. Once again, that shouldn't be much of a problem. Mississippi State isn't the best football team. Those are 2, I think, pretty easy wins before a Week 9 bye week. And it's a well-timed bye week for them because the next week they have to go to play Alabama, but they are at home. That's the thing about this game. So in my Alabama prediction video, which I did 2 days ago, I said that I thought Alabama would win this game, and I still do think that, but I'm kind of leaning a bit more towards LSU now, just because they are at home, and LSU is a tough place to play at home, and especially if the fans are at the game, I think Mac Jones could really mess up in that game. LSU's defense would force Mac Jones to have like a poor game. And, I mean, LSU could win that game because of their defense, even if their offense doesn't have to do much. But their offense can do a lot. We've seen that. They have some really good players on their offense. Week 11, South Carolina. South Carolina is actually a decent team. They're just not on the level that LSU is. They're not on the level as many teams. I do think they are better than some teams, some of the lower teams in the SEC. They are better than them, but still, they're not on the level of some other teams in the SEC and just in college football overall. And then to end the season, LSU has 2 tough games at Auburn, which could be a tough game. I think Auburn can be a good team this season. I think Bo Nix can step up for Auburn. Jatarvius Whitlow is a good running back. Auburn has some good players, and I would not be surprised if Auburn has a really good season, so that could be a tough game for them. And then Texas A&M, I think Texas A&M is coming into this game with like a 9-2 record, which is similar to what LSU would have in this situation, so that could actually be a pretty big game. And it's at Texas A&M, which is good for Texas A&M, of course. Might make it a bit tougher for LSU. So looking at the schedule, there really is only 4 tough games, I would say. Well, 4, maybe 5 tough games the whole season. And 3 of them are on the road, which is not good for LSU. But I do think one of the toughest games, if not the toughest game, is at home against Alabama. So that's good for LSU. But here's my record prediction. I'm just going to go through every game. Week 1 against UTSA, I do think that'll be a win. It shouldn't be much of a challenge for LSU, I already said. It should be a good start to the season. Week 2 against Texas, it will be tough. It will be tough. It will be close, I think that. But I definitely think that LSU will be able to win it. It shouldn't be, I mean, it's going to be close. I do think that. But just even with players leaving, LSU still has the production to beat a team like Texas. Week 3, Rice, that should be an easy win. Same with Ole Miss, and then same with Nichols. So I think they're off to a 5-0 start. But then I think they're going to lose to Florida. I mean, if it was at home, I think they could win. But because it's on the road, that's just going to make it a lot tougher. Florida, I mean, they could have a really, really good season. I wouldn't be surprised if they did have a good season. With Kyle Trask in his first full season as a starter, he could do really, really well this year. And he could be a big part of a win for Florida against LSU. Week 7, Arkansas, even though it's on the road, I do think that'll be a win. And then Week 8 against Mississippi State, that's at home. I think it'll be a win. They have the bye week. And then Week 10 against Alabama, I think it'll be really, really close, and I think Mac Jones will have a pretty bad game. I just think the pressure will get to him in an environment like LSU. But I still do think Alabama will be able to win that game. I think maybe Najee Harris is going to get a lot of carries in that game, especially if Mac Jones really doesn't play well like I expect him to. South Carolina, I expect that to be a win. Like I said, South Carolina is a good team. They're just not on the level as teams like LSU are. So I do think that will be a win, which means only 2 losses at this point in time. And then the final 2 games of the season at Auburn, I think that'll be a really, really tough game, and I do think it'll be close. But I just feel like LSU, even without Joe Burrow and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and stuff, I still think that LSU is better than Auburn. If Bo Nix really, really steps up and becomes a Heisman contender, which is possible, I think Auburn could win this game. But as of right now, I don't think Bo Nix is going to have that big of a step up. And so I think LSU will be able to win that game. And then Week 13 against Texas A&M, I think this could be a really close game because I think Texas A&M can be really good this season. But I do think it will be an LSU win. I think it'll be close. So that ends LSU with a record of 10-2 on the season. So I think it will be 10-2. I think they could go, at best, I think they could go 11-1. Maybe even 12-0, but probably not. I think at best 11-1. And then at worst, probably 4 or 5 losses. At worst, I would say 8-4. That's the worst I could see them being. They could lose 5 games, but I don't know if Texas will be good enough to beat them. So I think it's somewhere between 7-5 to 11-1. But I think there's a lot higher chance that they'll go 11-1 or 10-2 than 7-5 or 8-4. I don't expect that to happen at all. 9-3, it could happen, but for me, I expect LSU to go 10-2 this season. So if you did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like. If you're new around here, please subscribe. If there's a team you want to see me do next, tell me in the comment section below. If there's a college football team, because I'm actually really enjoying making these. I'm hoping you're enjoying watching them as much as I am enjoying making them. But if you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.